Hello, everyone. I wanted to explain to you the difference between teaching and tutoring. Um, so, in teaching, you're looking at the general skills that you want your students to learn on grade level, right? So you look at the Common Core state standards, and you determine, okay, this is what students need to learn in the ninth grade or the 10th grade, and you teach that systematically. A good teacher doesn't just teach lessons, of course, they teach students, and hopefully they differentiate for the different students in the class. Um, One size does not fit all. Now, of course, there's problems with that, which I'll get into. Tutoring, on the other hand, is it takes the best of teaching, especially if you have a tutor who's an experienced teacher with training, credentialed teacher with some um, not just experience in the classroom, but success in the classroom. Tutoring, I think, is whereas teaching goes from the general to the specific, right? So you have the general lesson, you have your class, you have 30 students, and so you are teaching a lesson, and then over time, each day, each week, you begin to mold and shape that and differentiate it according to the needs of your students. You scaffold the help that they need to get them to that skill, because some of them are more ready than others. Some of them have higher reading levels. Others are, the writing comes easier to them, and they learn the process, the traits, blah blah blah. When you get to tutoring, I think it goes from specific up to general. So let me explain what I mean. In teaching, there's this filter, if you will. It starts very big and wide, like the way I'm stretching my arms out, and you get it narrower and narrower. Doesn't always happen, though, in the real world, in the real classroom, and that's why people are looking for tutors. And so we teachers haven't always done our job. That's not to make teachers into bad people. It doesn't make schools bad. What it means is that one size does not fit all. And so you go to a tutor, the tutor fills in the gaps, says, okay, let's look at the writing, let's look at the reading. What is needed to get the student, not just to grade level? Most tutors work on that. I'm different in that I'm also asking, what does good look like? How can we inspire students to become better communicators, better writers? How can we teach them to find a deeply personal reason to read? Read, read, read. Reading and writing go hand in hand. Back to tutoring. So tutoring takes the specific. Now, a lot of tutoring happens in a room or online with one student or a group of students and a teacher or a tutor. And you look at what the students are presenting in the way of needing help. A lot of tutoring happens around homework, and there's nothing wrong with that. So Johnny's having trouble with his English. So you look at the assignment with Johnny and you help get him successful for the homework assignment. But the focus there is on the homework, not necessarily on Johnny. But it is actually beneficial nonetheless. Well, I'm doing something that's different than that, because I think what's really needed is not to ask the students, well, what do you need help with? And to get them there. Yes, there's a way in which learning does take place as you're working through writing an essay. But that's not necessarily the case. unless the tutor is intentional about building that into the structure of the tutoring. So, a what I have designed, I think, is the perfect thing, because you have you need to have students coming to you for help. It's not enough to sign up students in a tutoring. They're not going to be motivated. Um, and if you're talking about a summer session, they don't have any homework to bring to you. Regardless, summer or fall or spring, what a good tutor will do is create an assignment to generate the types of questions that the students are then going to be motivated to seek in the tutoring. And if your tutor has a teaching background, they know how to look at the standards. They know what skills are necessary, and they will plan a series of assignments for the students to do. A couple of important things happen in that scenario. Number one, it's not that we're thinking in abstract terms of these skills down to a lesson and down to the students. What we're looking at is, let's give them the grade level assignment, or in some cases above grade level. Maybe you're trying to improve your performance on the SAT or the PSAT, NMSQT, or SAT-NIM-SQUAT, National Merit Scholarship Qualifying Test, or the ACT. And you give that to them. Then you look and see what is their readiness. What is their ability level based upon that? And so instead of focus on a lesson and all this, it's the task. And this is more real world. This is more practical, because in the real world, they're going to be faced with these tasks in the workplace, in college, in life in general. And then you help them through that to the lesson. So one way is kind of deductive, the other is inductive, right? Teaching comes down to the narrow, from the general. And that doesn't always happen, because especially if you have a class full of students and the teacher's not skilled at being able to give 30 students attention, there's a trick to that. So in the tutoring, you take the task and you work your way up to the necessary lesson that helps that task, without taking too much time to teach this 5-week lesson. You're teaching what's absolutely necessary. Let me give you an example. In a classroom, you have a grammar lesson: nouns, verbs, adjectives, adverbs, adverbial clauses, adjectival clauses, phrases. And it's disengaged from the practical writing aspect. In the tutoring, you give them the writing assignment. This is your task. This is the rubric. Now you go ahead and write. Now let's look at it. Okay, we see everybody's writing. I can see here half of you are struggling with clauses and commas. Your message is not clear. So at that point, you can teach grammar. What happens in the tutoring, because you're teaching in this way, from the specific to the general, is it sticks with students. That's what I've found in my classes. And what I'm talking about in my tutoring practice, I've actually done in my regular classes. I've given my students an assignment, and we have a writing workshop. And then from there, I am seeing their work. Everybody's seeing their work. everybody sees what is needed for this essay, this paragraph, this sentence to be clear. And from there now, see, the dog is wagging the tail, not the other way around. Now we have a motivation to learn nouns. Now, do we really need to learn nouns and verbs in the 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th grade? Absolutely not. The names don't matter. What matters is, do you know how a word behaves in a sentence? Do you know how a phrase behaves in a sentence? Whatever we call it doesn't really matter. But being able to quantify the elements of a sentence to make them better, and once a student understands this, now they have a platform for improving the quality of their writing by being very specific, by elaborating. All sorts of things happen at this point, and suddenly everything clicks, everything makes sense. Oh, that's why we learned about nouns and verbs. I can see how I can make my sentence better by understanding what an adverbial phrase is. It's a group of words and it's a unit. It behaves like a single adverb, but yet it is a lot of words working together. Kind of like a soccer team is many people, but in an odd sense, it's a singular unit working together. All right, so that is just the difference I wanted to explain to you, and this may answer the question, if you have the question, why is this tutoring not structured like a classroom lesson with a set of standards? We could do that, but then you're talking about more school. And why did you come to tutoring to begin with? Why did you think of tutoring for your student? It's because there was a gap. And so tutoring is focused on the student and the gap that the student has and how to get them to where they need to be. And I hope this has been helpful to you. And my contact information, I'm sure I would have shared wherever this video is shared on that particular platform, whether it's Google Classroom or YouTube or Zoom. And so until the next video, keep writing.